Okay, welcome to my video where, as you can see, I've got my 4 joystick controller. Actually, it's got a few more than that. And I've got my game that I've been working on here. This is called Ace Racers SP. And there's 2 versions of vehicle. There's actually 4, but there's 2 base versions of vehicle in the game. There is a space drone, which you can see here. And there's a rockhopper, which you can see here. And so I'm going to play with the rockhopper for a little bit. And the rockhopper is like a lunar lander style vehicle. And as you can see, I've got 3 little cameras here. You can toggle those on and off, but I'm going to leave them on. And they let you kind of see some different angles of what's going on with the vehicle. The one on the top that you can see here is actually a chase cam. So once you start getting some velocity, it'll always follow behind you. So even if you turn around though, so now it's still following my velocity. It's not following the front of my vehicle. Until I get turned around the other direction, then it'll start to follow me. The other 2 are at fixed positions around the vehicle, and these cameras do 2 things. As a viewer of a game, of mini games, I always wish that the player could somehow maintain having the cockpit view or the first person view of the game while still somehow being able to view the player character or vehicle itself. I particularly want to watch the thrusters fire on spaceships. I love the experience because you get to watch so many situations where the thrusters are kind of firing. So this rockhopper vehicle has 5 camera perspectives for the player to use. There's a horizontal front camera, there's a 45 degrees angle up camera, there's a 45 degrees angle down camera, there's a straight up camera, and then there's a straight down camera. And these cameras can be a little bit disorienting to fly through because your controls don't change. So when you're looking through the 45 degree angle camera, for example, if you go on your kind of the roll axis here, then it doesn't move in a straight line one direction or the other. It kind of moves in a circle because you're viewing out a different angle. So you're turning the vehicle this way, but the camera is moving around like this, right here. So the way that it looks can be a little bit disorienting until you get used to it. And then another thing too is if you have your controls set up so that looking out the 90 degree angle camera, you have a forward and a back. Once you switch to the up camera, now your up is forward and everything gets a little switched around. So it's quite fun, but it is a little bit disorienting. So as you can see in this level, I have a bunch of hoops distributed around, and those are courses that I built in Unity Game Engine, and they're just little obstacle courses that the player can practice flying around or try to get a little bit of new navigational opportunities or even try to get faster at racing around, and I have a few obstacles here. But there's also in the game is object placer mode, and so here you can see that I can move my camera around so I can see the different angles around the vehicle, and I can zoom in and see my vehicle up close, and I can zoom way out here so that I can see the objects that I place. So my vehicle here, this is a warp ship, so this is a warp robot with a magic wand and a Minecraft block kind of thing going on here, and it's just for fun, but you can see it's also got the warp engine coming out the bottom, and it doesn't have any physics, so there's no gravity anymore, and if you want to fly around, it moves a bit quicker, and it just stops when you let go. So it's a little bit easier to drive around for when you want to choose which objects you want to place. And so previously there's been the rings already. I've had a bunch of rings in here. And then you can place rings and you can organize them around, and the ring appears with the guy in the center. So you can just put your guy where you kind of want the ring to go, and then you can place a ring. So now there's also a few other objects in the game, and these objects have like an invisible square above that square, and as long as you're inside of that square, that's how you can delete the object. So with the rings, if you're in the ring, you can delete the ring, right? So now if you place some rings and you want to move them, in the future I would like to have it so that you can grab the ring and move it around, but for now all I've figured out is how to make it so that you can delete it, and then you could maybe change your angle and then place it again. So if you don't like where it's at, you would delete it. You would kind of change your position a little bit, and then you would place it again. So now you can place these objects as well. And the way to delete the objects, like I said again, so let's say you have this object up here like this. So all you got to do is you come up to the object and you can see where the connector square is, and you just have to get inside of an invisible square that's right above that, and then you'll be able to delete it. So some of the objects are hopefully a little bit more fun to have around a racetrack. For example, you might absolutely love flying your spaceship drone, so you might want to put some hearts around, or you might want to put some landing pads in this case. And so then once you have some landing pads, now you can switch back to your vehicle and you can set her down. So again, I would like to in the future have a camera that kind of works a little bit like this one, where you can kind of look at the vehicle just to see what it looks like. But the objective of this camera is not to fly. The first person view cameras have that, and then I have these other 3 little cameras there that you can not see very well, but you can see them. So because you can see them, I'm not necessarily in a particular rush to try to figure out how it is that I'm going to make it so that I get all these extra cameras in the game. Unity does have some built-in camera features called Cinemachine, but when I went to go try to use Cinemachine, I found that it was really difficult to make it work the way that I wanted to for a 3-dimensional environment and for the size of vehicle that I wanted to. It's kind of built around people using it for this one kind of size set, so the distance from the camera that you're going to want, and for one kind of 2-dimensional walk around kind of. So everything else, I couldn't figure out how to make it work right, and it seems like you just have to build it yourself anyways. So for example, this camera right here, I had to build this camera myself. The zoom and the move around, and it wasn't too terribly difficult, but it was kind of hard actually, and I spent a bunch of time trying to make Cinemachine work to get this, because Cinemachine does this automatically. It just doesn't do it for me in this 3-dimensional environment. I'm sure there's user error in there, but this is actually much simpler. So some other objects that are here is I got a nice big cylinder, and then I got a nice big well, I got these shipping containers. Here's this object right here, and that's not a shipping container, but you can see that you could put rings to help you fly through these particular sections, and then all these shipping containers that are down here, I have those as well. And again, you can just get over to this square, you find the square, and then you can delete it. So the same thing up here. You have this, here's the square on this one. You can delete it. So then once you get a couple objects up, then you can get to the business of placing some rings. Around your object, and then you can go and you can fly your rings. So here I've got these rings. I have a ton of momentum here. Let me get my momentum canceled. I would just do it normally, but let me just get my momentum canceled using warp mode or space mode. And now I can start from a little bit more of a velocity that's within the standards of this particular other thruster vehicle. So another nice thing about the warp mode is if you want to go play the course that's way over there, you can just switch to warp mode and get over there really quickly instead of having to fly over there. And so now here you can see I can fly through these rings that I placed. And because I have this placeable object, it kind of lets you build your own environment a little bit instead of kind of having to rely on the 1 or 2 shapes that I put into the scene. Or in the future, I'm thinking about adding some empty scenes, or I might try to buy some assets that'll be fun, like the International Space Station as an example. I think it would be fun to have the International Space Station, although I do have a space station. And as this vehicle is kind of designed around a lunar lander, I may try to buy like a lunar environment. So going back to this main menu here, and then I do have a space station. This is a free space station. that is available from the Unity Asset Store, and it's a pretty good space station actually, especially once you get backed up a little ways. It looks really nice. Hold on, this vehicle flies inverted compared to the Rockhopper, so I always want to go. Every time I switch, I always get goofed up on my controls because one of them is pointing the other direction. But again, that has to do with having your orientation correct when you have which is the front that you're going to choose to be the front. So here's the space station here, and then of course you got the obstacles in this one as well. And you can go different speeds. And again, you can then place some rings around there. Let me pick one. Oh geez. This heart collider, I might have to go readdress that, but you kind of bounce off it kind of far away from it. I'm not sure how I feel about that. And then you can switch back to your space vehicle. Oh. Let me switch back to normal speed here. You can go fly through your hoops. Yeah, that must have a capsule collider, and I gotta go fix that. So, there you have it. There's no sound in space. No, there's no sounds in my game. Maybe I'll work on some sounds in the future, but so far I've found sounds to be something I don't really know how to do. So, there you have it. A little bit of a demonstration of Ace Racers SP in action. Here's the space drone. Here's the Rockhopper. And then you can fly in the warp mode and place the rings around. And then you can go and race around your courses. And of course you can save and you can load your courses, but that system is fairly rudimentary, so you need to remember which environment you saved the course in and then load it back into that environment yourself. If you load the wrong one into the environment, it might work out where you have a nice course out of it, but by now with the placeable objects being different in each one and a different number being assigned to them sometimes, it might not work out as where the course will load, even if it's over an open space, exactly how you saved it in the other level. So that could also be something that I managed to work on later, but more likely I'm going to try to figure out a way for the game to only offer to load those levels which you saved in a particular environment, which might be a little easier for me to figure out than actually trying to make the saves work even if you load it into a different level. Make it be consistent that way. Alright, thank you very much.